All right, so in this video, we're going to be looking at add, subtract, and multiplying of complex numbers. So in your notes, you'll be filling this in. So for the first example, we have 2i plus 5i. So since those are like terms, we can just go ahead and combine them to get 7i. For the second example, we have a subtraction problem. So with subtraction, you're going to have to know to distribute your negative. All right, so we keep the first part, which is 3 plus 5i, but when we distribute the negative, we end up with a minus 2 and a positive 6i. And that's because when you distribute that, a negative times 2 is negative 2, and a negative times a negative makes that a positive. So it may actually be more helpful to almost put a little 1 right here, because then it's like negative 1 times 2, negative 1 times negative 6, and so on. All right, but now that we've distributed that negative, now we can combine our like terms. So 3 minus 2 is 1, and then 5i plus 6i is 11i. All right, and then always make sure you're in standard form, all right, which is real and then imaginary. All right, so example 3, it's addition, so we can just go ahead and combine our like terms. We don't have to worry about distributing, because if you distribute a positive, it doesn't alter your signs any. So 2 plus 8 is 10, and then a negative 3i and a minus 2i make a negative or a minus 5i. All right, so that's some of your examples for adding and subtracting with complex numbers. So you'll see underneath that on your paper that there's some examples for you to try. All right, so y'all go ahead and kind of pause and try those problems. All right, so after you've tried those addition and subtraction problems, we're going to go ahead and go to multiplication. So with multiplication, you can use your preferred method. So some people prefer to use the box method. Some people prefer distribution. I mean, there's a lot of different methods out there. Okay, so I personally prefer distribution, so that's how I'm going to work these problems. But if you have a different method that you like, then you can definitely do that. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is multiply. So 2i and 5i multiply to get 10i squared. But then step 2 says anywhere that you see an I squared, you need to replace it with negative 1. So we really have 10 times a negative 1. And then when we multiply that and put it in standard form, then that just gives us negative 10. There's actually no imaginary number here, okay, for this example. For the second example, when you multiply, I'm going to distribute. So I'm going to say, okay, 2 times 7 is 14. I'm going to distribute 2 times negative 8i to get negative 16i. And then now I have to distribute the 4i. So a positive 4i times 7 is positive 28i. And then a positive 4i times negative 8i is negative 32i squared. All right, so you got to be careful with that. All right, so we're going to replace this I squared with a negative 1. So I'm going to go ahead and put that here. All right, and then think about what really is happening here. When you have a negative 1 times a negative 32, you ultimately are ending up with a positive 32, all right, because it changes your sign. So now I'm ready to combine my like terms. So when I combine my like terms, I have a 14 and a 32. That gives me 46. And then I have a negative 16i and a positive 28i. And that gives me a positive 12i. All right, again, just make sure that you're putting things in standard form. So if you put 12i plus 46, then it would not be in standard form. So make sure that you have your order correct. All right. This last example, it says 3 plus 4i and it's all squared. What you need to remember is that if you square something, like if I had 5 squared, it would be 5 times 5. Well, here I have 3 plus 4i squared, so I end up with 3 plus 4i times 3 plus 4i. So then I just need to do the same thing I did before and distribute. So 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4i is 12i. 4i times 3 is 12i. And then 4i times 4i is 16i squared. So again, we need to replace our I squared with a negative 1. And then 16 times negative 1 ultimately gives us a negative 16, all right, or minus 16. So now I'm going to combine my like terms. So 9 and negative 16 gives me a negative 7, and then 12i and 12i gives me 24i. All right. So make sure, again, it's in standard form. All right, so those are some examples of just multiplication. So now on your paper, you have some examples here as well. All right, number 8's a little bit trickier. So just remember that you'll have to distribute here, and then combine your like terms. All right, and that's it for add, subtract, and multiply complex numbers.